days and nights to a lakeside. They say it was in the 12th century, near a village called Myddfai. They say that a shepherd would watch his flock beside a lake known as Llyn Fan Fach. It is said that these waters are sacred, even unto this day, that there are caverns beneath and underground ways which lead to the ancient mystic dwelling of the eternal youth, where the fairy folk, where the elves and sprites find for eons their home. Aye, there are many such places in the Welsh country. All manner of natural wells, springs, streams and rivers, all tumbling down into the great Irish Sea. In times past, and still perhaps today, such waters were worshipped in the name of the goddess and mother of the earth, and all the unseen keepers of this land, who blessed in turn the children with the sweet, sweet waters of life. Often the shepherd of Myddfai had sat beside these shores and cleansed and soothed his laboured hands, and watching for hours the rhythmic swell, he would lull and calm his world-weary spirit, back and forth, like a newborn rocking with the soft lappings of Llyn Fan's rippling waves. Oh, how he loved these waters, yet he had not known the lake as she was this night. No, never before had he felt her more womb-like as she was now, with feeling rising from her depths, and a whispering, a call of fragrant promise in the wavy wisp-like mists. Yet this was a night for the shepherd of Myddfai, long dreamt of, long awaited though feared. For there are those who say still that no earthly man should respond to such stirrings as these. But the shepherd of Myddfai could no more hide from the calling which beckoned him now. So he stood fast his ground, and he opened wide his eyes into the measureless eternal beyond. And there, as if to greet him, a fairy maid sat, singing and combing her hair. And as the shepherd looked on, mist-drenched and dazed, and crossed in mortal wonder, he sensed that she was also the lake, and that the lake was also she. Aye, my friends, he did indeed behold her, Llynne van Fach, in human form. Now for all his dreams and imaginings, for all that he had wondered, never could he have dreamed such a dream, nor imagined half her beauty. Oh, lovely was she beyond the measure of man, beyond all of his fine reason, and lovely was the song that she now sang, as she stepped from the lake to greet him, and reaching out, she touched his hand, and she drew him in, and she spun him around in a magic ring, and round again. Oh, such was he drawn from his earthly care, in reckless wild abandon, beyond mortal time, in step with her rhyme, rhythmically on and on. I wish you were my bride, he said, and he offered her his hard-baked bread. Your bread's too hard, the maid replied, to win the hand of a fairy bride. Yet on they spun and on, till the sun chased the moon from the sky. Then she pushed him away from that fairy ring, for all that he did cry. And she ran like the wind back to the lake, and she dived down deep within, and it was as if they had never danced upon the Myddfai mountain. Well, the moon it moved around the earth, and returned next night to Myddfai, and the fairy one rose, the legend goes, with a love light in her eye. Again they danced, and again they sang, sighed the deep, dark, sunless water, and though his mortal feet near bled, he prayed that the night last forever. But soon the light of day came round, and the fairy one fled as before, and though he begged as he offered his bread, she would sing nor dance no more. Well, all that day the shepherd watched, transfixed and spellbound by the water, and he could neither eat nor drink, so desperately did he crave her. Well, late that night the fairy rose from Llynne van's rippling water, but this time he offered softer bread when the magic dance was over. Your bread is good, the fairy cried, and forever I will wear your ring. But shepherd, you must first show me that you know me from amongst my kin. Next night all manner of fairy folk arose with his love from within, sisters alike upon fine white steeds galloped through the spray toward him, and they all sang sweet like she had sung, and they all combed their hair like her, and save for the buckle of her shoe, he could never have known her. Now I'll be your bride, she gladly sang, and wedding bells soon shall ring. For when a fairy and a mortal wed, a great healing shall begin. No sweeter love no man shall know from any unearthly maiden. But strike me thrice, she cautioned him, and sorrow shall be your burden. Well, the shepherd vowed in all good faith, then he vowed and vowed again, that he never would nor never could inflict any sorrow or pain. And as he spoke, she summoned from the depths cattle in great procession, and clapping her hands, she assigned them all into her love's possession. Then by the lake their marriage was made, and church bells rang out in Myddfai, and hand in hand they danced and sang as the morning sun rose in the sky. Now it is better not to hear these tales than hear them unbelieving. So say the storytellers of old, and all the hidden bards and custodians of the law, who even now sit beyond the veil of time in endless, endless recitation. Aye, and never a tale, nor legend, myth, nor magic song is left untold or left unsung. Ours is the shroud of forgetfulness, the fathomless unknowing of sleep, where neither dreams nor yearnings of the soul cry out to hear again 1,000 unremembered songs and long-lost tales, still sweet, though ill-reputed, on some wandering minstrel's lips. But if unwittingly you chance upon the half-crazed ramblings of such a one, then listen well and pass them on, as they have done and passed to you. Such is the storyteller's way upheld, and by such means too the sleep spell may be broken, and though it may be but for a moment in time, 'tis magic reawakened. the shepherd, he loved his fairy bride, oh, more than words can say. Yet she held him now between two worlds, twixt the folk and the fairy way. And the fairies' ways were unknown ways, her care so wild and free, and for instruction she looked nowhere, nowhere that he could see. But sweet was the love she gave him, and strong the son she bore. And the shepherd rejoiced and danced and sang, and he honoured the fairy lore. But it was when the lambing season came round in its turn to Myddfai, about the time when the snow-caps thawed on the mountain tops so high. It was then that a tinkling christening bell called out from the church below, and the shepherd with his fairy bride set off with thanks to show. But she wore no gloves to the church that day, no shawl to cover her head, and she carried no prayer book in her hand, though she came as she was bid. O fairy one, O fairy one, the shepherd was heard to cry, take your shawl up o'er your head, take these gloves o' mine, and take a prayer book in your hand, if thou be a wife o' mine. And then he raised his hand to her before the congregation, and he brought it down upon her back with righteous indignation. O shepherd that's once, the fairy cried, and her eyes flashed wild with pain, strike me thrice, O heed my words, or you'll never see me again. Well, the months passed, and the shepherd took care not to strike another blow, and he danced and sang with the fairy one, and he watched his children grow. But it was when the haymaking season came round in turn to Myddfai, about the time when honeysuckles bloomed and summer birds graced the sky. It was then that a joyful wedding bell rang, with notes so sweet and high, and a young girl veiled in wild white silk arrived at the church by and by. Oh, joyous prayers were uttered then, and joyous hymns were sung, and many a glad tear was shed that day, though not by the fairy one. For she saw sorrow in the years ahead, much trouble and much pain, and throughout it all she wept and wailed, whilst the shepherd flushed with shame. O fairy one, O fairy one, the shepherd was heard to cry, hide your sorrow and your pain, 'tis not the place or time, and sit beside me with a joyful face, if thou be a wife o' mine. And then he raised his hand to her before the congregation, and he brought it down upon her back with righteous indignation. O shepherd, that's twice, the fairy cried, and her eyes flashed wild with pain. Strike me thrice, O heed my word, or you'll never see me again. Well, the months passed, and the shepherd took care not to strike another blow, and he danced and sang with the fairy one, and he watched his children grow. But it was when the summer had ended, when leaves lay strewn on the ground, about the time when the nights drew in, as the seasons turned around. It was then that a mournful funeral bell tolled in the village below, and the kinsfolk grieved for a lost loved one, and they crossed themselves in woe. Oh, solemn prayers were uttered then, and solemn hymns were sung, and many a sad tear was shed that day, though not by the fairy one. For she saw the angels free that soul from all its mortal pain, and throughout it all she laughed with joy, whilst the shepherd flushed with shame. She's from the devil, the kinsfolk hissed, devil's bride, not from our Lord is she. She's from the devil, let there be no doubt, oh, they would not let her be. Shepherd now did cry, hide your laughter and your joy, 'tis not the place nor time, and kneel beside me with head bowed low, if thou be a wife of mine. And then he raised his hand to her before the congregation, and he brought it down upon her back with righteous indignation. Husband, I weep for thee, for the dead leave all their pain behind, whilst yours is all before thee. Strike me thrice, I warned you, as 3 seasons turned round. Now my sisters fret at the lakeside, they are calling, I am bound. She dived down deep within, and it was as if she had never loved upon the Myddfai mountain. Well, the years passed by, the lake was still, and the fairy one came no more, and the shepherd died of a broken heart, though he felt his pain no more. Yet when her sons had grown to men, she rose once more to the shoreline, singing the song she had always sung, and combing her hair so fine. And she gave to them the healing gift in wondrous initiation, and she bid them go forth to soothe the sick, blessed with her fairy wisdom. she gazed upon those sons she'd borne,
Imagine.
with a mother's last wistful stare, then she turned to meet her fairy kin, free from her earthly care. Through the centuries, through the seasons, through the days and